Welcome back. This week is the 6th edition of NFL Weekly. I'm Nick Sinafani,
I'm Brenden Garula.
and let's get right into our games from this week.
Game number 1, we head to Lambeau Field as the Packers take on the Lions. Aaron Rodgers has a pretty good game, throwing for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamal Williams rushed for 104 yards, surprising us a little bit. On the Lions side of things, not much to count for. I think Kenny Galladay hauling in 5 receptions for 121 yards. The Packers win on a walk-off field goal, 23-22.
We head to London where Jameis Winston absolutely goes off, racking up 6 turnovers, 5 interceptions, 1 fumble. Absolutely incredible. Christian McCaffrey couldn't get anything going on the Panthers side of things in the running game, with 22 attempts for 31 yards. But other than this, Chris Godwin had another very good game. But that wasn't enough as Jameis threw the game away, and the Panthers take this one 37-26.
Next, we head to Minnesota as the red-hot Vikings take on the Eagles. Kirk Cousins throws 333 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Stephon Diggs finally breaks out once again. 7 receptions, 167 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Vikings blow out the Eagles 38-20.
We head to Arrowhead as Patrick Mahomes finally gets back his top target, Tyreek Hill, and he didn't take long to make an impact, catching a long touchdown pass in the first quarter. Hill ended this game with 5 receptions for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Mahomes threw for 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. But that wasn't enough as Carlos Hyde efficiently ran the ball for the Texans with 116 yards and a touchdown, and this led them to a 31-24 win over the Chiefs.
Next, we head to Miami. It's a tank battle, 2K19. It comes to Miami. Well, the Dolphins host the Redskins. Ryan Fitzpatrick is back as the Dolphins QB as he throws for only 132 yards and a touchdown, but he also protected the ball, giving the Dolphins a chance in this one. On the Redskins side of things, Adrian Peterson back to his old self, 23 attempts for 118 yards, and Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Redskins pull this one off 17-16 as they get their first dub.
We head to Jacksonville here when Minshew takes on the undefeated Teddy Bridgewater and the Saints. Teddy throws for 240 yards and a touchdown in a very low-scoring game where that was their only touchdown, and the Jaguars couldn't find the end zone. Not much to talk about here. The Saints take this one 13-6 and move to 5-1.
Next, we head to Baltimore as the Ravens take on the Red Rifle and Andy Dalton. Lamar Jackson back to his running back self, rushing 19 attempts, 152 yards, and a touchdown against the awful Bengals defense. He also throws for 236 yards, 99 of those yards going to Mark Andrews. On the Bengals side of things, Alex Erickson is their leading rusher with 1 attempt and 17 yards. The Ravens win an ugly one, 23-17, and the Bengals remain winless.
We head to Cleveland where the Browns are taking on the Seahawks. Again, Baker is piling up the interceptions this year, tacking on 3 more to his total. The running backs had a big impact on this game. Nick Chubb continuing to be a workhorse for the Browns with 20 attempts, 122 yards, and 2 touchdowns, while Chris Carson went 24 attempts for 124 yards and a touchdown as well. On the receiving end, Odell had a solid game, 6 receptions for 100 yards, and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf continue to be reliable receivers for Russell Wilson, who continues his MVP-like season as the Seahawks take this one 32-28.
Next, we head to LA as there is an NFC West matchup between the Rams and 49ers. Jared Goff is awful, throwing for only 78 yards. Can't get anything going on the offensive end. On the 49ers side of things, Jimmy Garoppolo throwing for 243 yards and an interception. George Kittle hauling in 8 receptions for 103 yards as the 49ers defense really steps up, holding the Rams to 7 points as the 49ers take this one 20-7.
Our next game has Kyler Murray and the Cardinals taking on Matt Ryan and the Falcons. This was a really high-scoring, close game that ended in a 1-point deficit. The quarterbacks absolutely dominated this game with Kyler Murray, the number 1 pick, throwing 27 of 37 for 340 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Matt Ryan threw 30 of 36 for 356 yards and 4 touchdowns. The receivers also had a very big impact on this game, with Austin Hooper racking in 8 receptions for 117 yards and a touchdown, and Julio, of course, bringing in 8 for 108 yards. On the Cardinals side of things, Larry Fitzgerald had a solid and also nice 6 receptions for 69 yards, and David Johnson racked in a touchdown. In the end, though, the Cardinals went to 2-3-1 with a 1-point win over the Falcons.
Next, we had the Denver as the Broncos take on the Titans. Joe Flacco struggling a little bit, only throwing for 177 yards and an interception. Phillip Lindsay, 15 attempts, 70 yards and a touchdown, having the only touchdown of the game. The Broncos win this one 16-0 as they shut out the Titans.
New York welcomes back their star quarterback after his kissing injury, and he had a very good welcome back game as well, throwing 23 of 32, 338 yards, 2 touchdowns, while also throwing a pick, but it didn't matter in the end. This Cowboys team is falling off a little bit. Can we talk about Robbie Anderson? 5 receptions for 125 yards and a touchdown. Another solid game. He continues to be a reliable receiver. Not much to say about this one other than Zeke had a good game too, 105 yards and a touchdown. But the Jets take this one to get their first win, 24-22 over the Cowboys.
Next, we had the LA as the Chargers take on the Steelers. Phillip Rivers throwing for 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Hunter Henry having a pretty big game, 8 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. On the Steelers side of things, they head with their third-string quarterback, as he throws for 132 yards and a touchdown, also managing throwing a pick. James Conner being the leading receiver with 7 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown, leading the Steelers to a 24-17 win.
We have Thursday night football between 2 rivals, the Patriots and the Giants. The Patriots defense continues to just absolutely destroy people, racking in, 2 defensive touchdowns, I believe. Probably your leading fantasy player. On the offensive side of things, Tom Brady had another good game. 31 for 41 for 334 yards, no touchdowns and a pick, but it didn't matter in the end. Edelman racking in 9 receptions, 113 yards. Other than that, their defense had a big impact on this game, and that led them to a 21-point win.
Now we head to the Team of the Week segment, as we have to give it to the Houston Texans, as they go into Arrowhead and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Deshaun Watson, 30 of 42, 280 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. But the real difference maker was Carlos Hyde, as he returns to his old team, rushing 26 times, 116 yards, and a touchdown, while Deshaun Watson also rushes 10 times for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the receiving side of things, DeAndre Hopkins hauls in 9 of his 12 receptions for 55 yards. But he wasn't even the leading receiver of the Texans. Darren Fells hauls in 6 of his 7 targets for 69 yards.
Nice.
What a guy. The Texans win this one in a 7-point win, 31-24.
Player of the week this week has to go to Stephon Diggs, racking in 7 receptions, for 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was disappointed with his role earlier in the season and even requested a trade, but this might want to make him stick around. A breakout game which could continue to bigger his role in this Vikings offense. His dominant day in the air led the Vikings to an 18-point win over the Eagles. That's all we have this week. Thank you for joining us on the Week 6 segment of NFL Weekly. I'm Nick Senafani.
I'm Brenden Garula.
And we'll be back next week to recap all of Week 7.